Today's AgVenture takes us to the forest of Louisiana. A mature forest is a beautiful sight. Today we will learn about trees, how they grow, different management practices a forester uses to keep the forest healthy and growing, the importance of forests to people and the environment, and some of the common forest products produced from Louisiana's forest. Are some of you wondering why we are headed to the forest to talk about trees while learning about Louisiana agriculture and Louisiana's crops? What if I told you that trees really are one of Louisiana's crops? It may shock you to learn that trees are Louisiana's #1 crop. Trees are usually not considered a crop because they are such a long-term investment. A stand of pine trees can take as long as 35 years to reach maturity. Pine trees are also unique among Louisiana's crops because the stands of trees require several harvests, called thinnings, to keep the trees healthy and growing. Once the trees are mature, all the trees are removed, like harvesting corn or rice, and the land is replanted in trees. In fact, trees and forestry contribute $12 billion to Louisiana's economy. Maybe money really does grow on trees. So exactly how do trees and forestry generate that kind of money? To get a better understanding of how this works, maybe we should look at the life of one tree. Here is our little tree. It may not look like it now, but this little tree has had quite a journey already. Let's look back to see how it got its start. Pine trees come from wing seeds produced in the seeding bodies called pine cones. Although pine trees can be grown from seeds, forest landowners primarily grow pines from seedlings. Since a forest landowner may plant thousands of trees on their land, planting pine seedlings has become a specialized operation. Here we can see that our little pine seedling is not alone. Think of it as a second nursery with all the recently planted pine trees lined up in rows, which are spaced evenly apart for easier management options. After a year of favorable growing conditions, our pine tree and the trees around it look healthy and are really growing. At this stage in their lives, the trees begin to rise above the surrounding vegetation. Pines grow best in direct sunlight. Now our tree is much larger, but sadly it has almost stopped growing. The trees around it have gotten so tall and wide that they are competing with our tree for sunlight, water, and nutrients. What can we do to help our tree? Remember when we said earlier that pine trees are unique among Louisiana's crops because the stands of trees require several harvests called thinnings to keep the trees healthy and growing. Now it is time for a thinning. Here is a picture of our tree and its forest after the first thinning harvest was completed. Professionals trained to manage the forest sustainably are called foresters. Foresters select which trees should be harvested in the thinning harvest. Trained professionals called loggers harvest the trees. Foresters and loggers use best management practices during harvest to protect the environment and wildlife. You may be wondering exactly what happened to the trees that were harvested. Just like most of Louisiana's other crops, trees are the raw material that produces lots of products that we depend on each day. After harvest, trees are brought to a manufacturing plant called a mill. At the mill, the trees are transformed into items that are more familiar to us. We often refer to these products as forest products since those products come from trees. There are over 5,000 forest products. Trees harvested from this first thinning are small and are used to make forest products like paper, oriented strand board, or pellets used to generate electricity. We better get back to the forest and check on our tree since it has been 7 or 8 years since we last checked on it. The good news is that our tree is still there and appears to be doing fine. But now the trees in our forest that were spaced out, healthy, and growing have grown so much that they aren't growing anymore. They have grown so large and so close together that sunlight can't reach the forest floor. Without sunlight, plants that wildlife need for food and shelter can't grow. What do we need to do to help our tree, our forest, and the wildlife? That's right, we need to conduct a second thinning harvest to space our trees out again. Just like our first thinning, the pulpwood trees were turned into paper products and engineered wood products. Wow! Time sure flies. It seems like just yesterday our tree was a tiny little seedling, and now it's a mature 35-year-old tree. It really is beautiful, but unfortunately, it can't grow in the forest forever. At its age, the growth slows down so much it is more a target for insects, and since it is almost 100 feet tall, our tree is more likely to be struck by lightning or blown over by a major hurricane. What do we need to do to make sure our forest full of large valuable trees isn't wasted? That's right, we need to harvest our crop of trees. This final harvest operation can be called a renewal harvest, regeneration harvest, or even sometimes a clear cut. Even though this final harvest might appear detrimental to the environment, foresters understand the final harvest is the end of one cycle and the beginning of the cycle of sustainable forestry management. After our tree is harvested, it will be taken to a mill and turned into useful forest products. Because it is large and strong, our tree will likely be turned into one of the premium forest products. These products include utility poles, structural lumber, and high-grade plywood and sheathing. The high value of our mature tree and its potential products is why trees are Louisiana's #1 crop. If you are interested in forestry or the outdoors, contact your local 4-H agent.